The Bear has become one of my favorite TV shows of all time, and with the debut of Season 3, I was not at all prepared for the divisive reactions it's getting. So rather than creating a traditional review, I want to go over all the details I loved about Season 3, and hopefully by the end, you might have a better grasp as to why Season 3 of The Bear is a messy masterpiece. Hi, I'm your host Rob, and on this episode of Atomic Vision, I'm going to break down Season 3 of The Bear, episode by episode, but before I do that, there's just one question I've got to answer first. Why is everyone so upset with Season 3 of The Bear?
I see out of the dreamweave, Carmen. Let's go. Yes. 1, 2, 3. Feliz cumpleaños a ti.
The most common complaint I've seen is that nothing happened, which I think is far from the truth. While the show had previous goals like fixing up the beef in Season 1, or opening the new version of the Bear in Season 2, Season 3 focuses more on the characters' personal journeys rather than building up to an obvious climax. And even though Season 3 does end on a cliffhanger, that wasn't the point of the overall season either. Season 3 is about repression, closure, and how Carmi's worst enemy is himself. Tomorrow is a montage episode of Carmi's origin story that subliminally chronicles the entire meaning behind Season 3. At face value, it's a flashback episode where Carmi learns to become a chef, but what the episode is actually doing is showcasing how Carmi learned all the wrong lessons from his work experiences. Despite having beautiful memories at Ever, Copenhagen, and the French Laundry, Carmi doesn't see that these small and intimate moments are what made him a culinary genius. Rather than taking the good and ignoring the bad, Carmi gets ensnared in Chef David's verbal abuse and uses that anger as motivation to become a greater chef out of spite.
You know, like I was good at something that was so new and that was so exciting, and I just wanted him to know that, and I just wanted him to be like, good job.
But in the process of being greater, Carmi pushes away those he loves and disregards all the good memories around him. This sets the groundwork for the season finale, when Carmi realizes his obsession was completely worthless. In one scene, Chef Terry tells Carmi to quiet down when he's yelling at Luca. It is brief, but the scene represents how Carmi isn't even aware of his self-destructive behavior. He has misconstrued fury for passion, and that is the arc Carmi goes through for the season. Later on in the episode, Chef Terry sternly teaches Carmi to refire a meal without any shouting or insults. And yet, Carmi walks away from this memory believing that anger fuels results. If it isn't obvious, Carmi is completely wrong. We get another example of this when Claire is working in the hospital, being gentle to a child as she's giving him an injection. The scene is meant to represent how you can be delicate and still succeed, how showing compassion is not a weakness. Then there's this scene where Chef David leaves a note for Carmi that reads, "Subtract." In context, it means to reduce certain ingredients in a meal for better flavor, but for the show, it has a double meaning. You don't have to subtract all parts of your life to gain the results you want, which is sadly what Carmi does throughout the series. This episode closes when Carmi plates a beautiful meal, only for it to be served to a young Sydney. Although they wouldn't cross paths for a handful of years, this one small meal would forever change both of their lives. Since The Bear is inspired by all types of service workers around the world, I love how the opening credits to episode 2 pay respect to real-life service workers. This has been a common theme whenever series creator Christopher Storer or the cast talks about the show. So it's just beautiful seeing the series honor service workers this way. In Next, Carmi continues to change the restaurant without consulting his partner Sydney, and despite several warnings, Carmi still hasn't learned to be a team player. One example is when Carmi introduces his list of non-negotiables, which sounds harmless at first by listing vibrant collaboration, but it eventually devolves into extremes like new meals every night and no phones allowed. Carmi excuses these demands as a way to earn the restaurant a Michelin star, but Cousin sees right through this bullshit.
Non-negotiables, you need to do some negotiating with yourself.
Oh yeah?
You tell me. Changing the menu every day?
It's bad.
To me, that sounds a little bit like running away.
Okay, you, there.
Because of the chaotic nature of The Bear, several servers quit due to how dysfunctional this workplace environment is, and it's only just the beginning. But this episode closes with an introduction to my favorite part of Season 3, which is Marcus's character journey. Despite his mother passing away the previous night, Marcus works through his pain in a healthy manner, as opposed to Carmi, who's been working through his pain in the most self-destructive way possible.
She wanted me to be with y'all. This is what's up now. This place has got to work, and I need you to do something for me.
Yeah, name it.
Take us there, Bear.
Doors opens with Marcus hosting a funeral for his late mother, and although this may seem like nothing, this scene holds so much weight because Marcus does the one thing that Carmy is struggling with, and it's properly grieving a lost loved one. Marcus, through his sadness, allows himself to grieve rather than repress his emotions, and this helps Marcus break free from his pain. Had Carmy done any of this with Mikey, who knows what kind of person he'd be today. This is the only episode where the restaurant is the focal point, and everything that happens is a result of Carmy's non-negotiables. Despite creating these rules to maintain peace in the kitchen, his non-negotiables and perfectionism lead the bear to total anarchy.
Yeah, Chef Sid, I need those Wagyu. These guys are waiting like half an hour.
Right here, Jeff. Perfect.
Thank you, Chef Tina.
No, T, refire.
T, do not refire. Plate that shit. Plate it.
What's
Look us
wrong
off.
with it?
Are you kidding me? It's perfect.
Refire!
That's a ass right. I'm getting
If it's not perfect, it doesn't go out.
Yeah.
Okay?
Meanwhile, amid the craziness, Sydney teaches Tina with tranquility and compassion, and when Tina messes up a meal, Sid continues to coach with love, juxtaposed to Carmy's constant yelling. Even Richie puts in the effort when he guides guests out of the restaurant to free up a table, using wit to succeed rather than anger. Despite creating a restaurant to serve others, Carmy loses his grip and begins to control how his customers must eat, and this becomes Richie's breaking point as he stares at a fork and purse on the ground. The bear has turned into a shithole, no different than the beef. Violet opens with a great scene where Claire talks about the scars we physically wear. She asks Carmy how he got his scar on his hand, as she explains how her latest patient got her scars. Both stories align when Claire mentions how sometimes there's some pain so brutal, you can't even feel it. And to me, that is a metaphor for this season. Carmy has emotional scars that need healing, but it's not until you take that first step that the healing process begins. And speaking of, the next scene cuts to Marcus looking at a flower growing among dried up weeds, symbolizing that even with death, there is new life. Richie, who has been struggling with his divorce for many years, finally moves on from Tiff and takes off his ring. This entire episode is about how far Richie has come from season 1 by showing true change. Old Richie would have lashed out at Frank, but new Richie acts like an adult and is respectful. Later on, Richie asks Sugar if he should back off from parenting his kid, and Sugar tells him that being there for her is what's making him a good dad. Loneliness is a recurring theme this season, and Carmy represents how choosing to be lonely can be detrimental, while the rest of the cast showcases how important it is to talk to someone about your struggles. This episode also sees Sydney meeting the CDC of Ever, and is told that her cooking stands out amid the bear's anarchy.
I mean, there was a scallop dish that was lights out, and it felt really new.
New, like
Not Carmy.
This will be the first of many times Sydney reflects on her cooking and how her leadership is what's keeping the bear afloat. But this all builds up to the reveal that a reviewer managed to dine at the bear without anyone even noticing. Despite the non-negotiables, the bear is such a dysfunctional mess that they somehow missed the one thing they've been preparing for this whole time. Children opens with a scene where Marcus mends his friendship with Sydney, showing some healthy growth compared to the previous season where he lashed out at her in the finale. This is something that Carmy is incapable of doing this whole season with Claire Bear, giving yet another example of how easy it is to say I'm sorry.
Hey, Claire Bear.
Yeah?
Hey, I'm really sorry. Done.
See? Break down the boxes.
With the shocking announcement of Chef Terry's restaurant closing, a new fear is unlocked within Carmy. With a high-quality and beloved restaurant like Ever coming to its sad end, will the bear suffer the same fate? When asked about his experience at Ever with Terry, Carmy admits that he wasn't even aware of how special it was because he was too focused on self-improvement rather than enjoying the moment. But Carmy does have at least one small moment of self-awareness when he asks Ibra if he's f***ing this up. And in this only instance this whole season, Carmy makes a change and hires more workers to help Ibra. Unk then hires Computer to prove that Carmy's new rules make absolutely zero sense and are sinking the bear into debt. This episode also introduces hauntings, which starts off as a joke, but is actually a core theme of the season and the overall series. While the facts use hauntings as a way to bully each other, Carmy uses his hauntings to drive him to be a better chef, and it's not working. Napkins is a flashback episode chronicling Tina's journey to the beef, and for me, it is the most beautiful episode of the entire season. I also just think it's so cool that Edebiri directed this episode, and that Liza's real-life husband, David Zayas, plays Tina's husband. When Tina is let go by her previous employers, she relentlessly hunts down for a new job for what feels like weeks. When the last job posting leads her to a dead end, Tina feels like she has hit rock bottom and finds herself breaking down at the beef, hiding in the back room, crying to herself, only for Mikey to console her. After a beautiful and heartwarming chat, Mikey receives a photo from Carmi and proudly shares it with Tina.
My baby brother, he's a chef.
Fancy.
Yeah. You ever know somebody who, knows exactly what it is in this world that they want to do? F***ing knows it, and not only do they know it, but they're really f***ing good at it.
That sounds like a dream.
I'm telling you, I genuinely really think that is the dream.
Even in unsuspecting places, Carmi is unaware of how his talent inspires those around him, not through anger, yelling, or misery, but with love. Mikey goes on to say that he's starting to believe that food, cooking, and family are what bring people together, despite his heartbreaking memories saying otherwise. Tina recognizes that her passion has died, and that the younger generation has the spark. And although she is jealous and okay with settling, we the audience know that after meeting Carmi and Sydney, love is what reawakens her passion again. Legacy is the episode where Sydney is offered a CDC job at a new restaurant where she'll be a part owner with higher pay and the freedom to cook whatever she wants. After everything that has happened in the show, it's at this moment that Sydney realizes she has done more to help Carmi than he has done to help her, and now she feels like moving on could be the next step in her life. There's also a great scene where Carmi talks about Legacy and what it is that he desires, but everything Carmi lists is a complete contradiction to what has happened this season.
I would want it to be panicless, anxiety-free. And I think in order to do that, I would have to be square with everything, and everybody. To make it good, I'd have to filter out the bad.
Just a total lack of self-awareness. After hiring new workers to help out Ibra, we get to see the aftermath, which is so rewarding because it brings joy back into the business. This also shows that if Carmi's willing to change, then success is possible. There's still time. Gary talks about how he missed his chance to be a real professional baseball player, but Ted tells him that worrying about what could have been will only affect who you are right now, so don't dwell in the past, which is exactly what Carmi is doing. When Richie fails to give an uplifting pep rally before opening, he realizes that the bear feels a bit soulless and nothing like Carmi had promised. And for good old time's sake, Carmi continues to ignore Sid's advice.
Maybe we do the cavatelli with the brown butter.
Raviolo.
Okay, we could follow that with the hamachi.
Kampachi, I think.
Cool. And serve it with the cherry.
I think the apricot's working well.
Yes, chef.
Cool. Thank you, chef.
Thank you.
Ice Chips seems like an episode that barely has anything going on, but in reality, it is the most important episode of the entire season.
Call Mom. Calling Mom.
With everything that's going on with Carmi refusing to change or apologize, in Ice Chips, we see Donna and Sugar do exactly that. Despite how terrible their relationship has been over the years, this standalone episode shows that healing is possible. When Sugar goes into labor while shopping for the bear, she's left with no other choice but to call her mother to ask for help. In this episode, we see Sugar mending her relationship with her mother by compromising, which is the one thing that Carmi's still struggling to do with the bear. Despite how intense Donna is, some of her advice is genuinely helpful, and throughout the episode, Sugar opens up to these ideas. And they work. Meanwhile, Donna acknowledges that she needs to change, and takes accountability for once. When Sugar admits that she is afraid that she'll be a terrible mother, Donna lets her know that it won't happen.
You asked me why I didn't tell you. I just don't want her to feel the way that I felt.
Oh, she won't.
You don't know that.
Oh, I do. I do.
Apologies opens with a montage of illusions, magic, and filmmaking, symbolizing how cooking is just another act of serving with passion. The reveal is that Marcus is the one watching the video, representing how he is creating with passion, while Carmi's still stuck in the same spot. With each order, yell, and demand, Sid and Richie realize they've had enough of working for Carmi. The fear of a bad review haunts them, but they know it has nothing to do with the quality of the food. It's how their service has gone to They've been so off their A-game that they somehow missed a birthday while serving, showing how off the rails the bear has become.
We missed the birthday?
Yeah.
It's on me.
When Unk and Carmy talk about dreams, Unk explains that dreams are what fuel passion, but real results are what keep dreams afloat. Carmy's dream for the bear is killing them financially, and if he wants to keep his dream afloat, he needs to compromise. On top of that, when Carmy scrolls through his cookbooks at home, remembering all his beautiful memories working in Copenhagen and ever, for a moment, Carmy feels inspired. It isn't until the next episode that Carmy realizes that this should be fueling his passion, and not his resentment toward Chef David. The final episode opens with the chef teaching Carmy how to delicately tie up a bird, and yet again is another example of how compassion is better than aggression. This episode is another celebration of service workers, this time honoring real-life chefs in the opening and throughout the episode. After Sydney talks with multiple chefs, she realizes that Carmy's abusing her the same way David had abused Carmy.
Greatest mistake is working for a bad boss, such that what it unlocks in you is the culture that you choose to create.
This needs to get good or go away.
This needs to get good or go away.
You redid everything.
Sid? Sid?
On the opposite end, hearing all of the beautiful stories also fuels Sydney's growing desire to leave the bear. When Chef Terry gives her closing speech forever, she reflects on how the experiences they've made for their guests are what people will remember, and not the quality of the food, reminding us again that Carmy's heart is in the wrong place. After years of abuse, hate, and sadness, Carmy finally confronts David, only for this climactic talk to end with a whimper. Carmy suddenly realizes that all his pent-up aggression and contempt toward David amounted to nothing and was a gigantic waste of time. What makes matters worse is that David confirms Carmy's greatest fear. This is it. This is success. And there's nowhere else to go from here. Carmy's desire to be the greatest has led him down a road of pain and misery, but worst of all, Carmy realizes that the green light he had been reaching out for all this time was never truly obtainable. Was any of this worth it? Afterward, Carmy confronts Chef Terry and thanks her for her loving advice, teachings, and compassion, only to ask an interesting question in return.
What would you tell yourself when you were where I am? I know.
I think I'd tell myself that you have no idea what you're doing, and therefore you're invincible.
Then there's this scene where Luca tells Sid that he misses his sibling, but they had drifted apart over the years and wishes they had kept in touch. He elaborates that having a sibling is like having a best friend, and Sid realizes that the closest person she has to a sibling is Carmy. So after the dinner, the chats, and a party at home, Sydney reflects on what it is she really wants, and the truth causes her to have a full-blown panic attack. The season ends with the review of The Bear being published, and Carmy reacting to the results in total confusion. The Bear Season 3 can be summed up by Chef Terry's gift that hangs on the wall overseeing the kitchen. Every second counts. And for the longest time, Carmy believed that it meant that every second in the kitchen counts, and that time shouldn't be wasted on anything other than the craft. But Carmy has gotten it all wrong. It's actually the opposite. Every second in life, in love, and in family counts. Every second should be a gift where you learn, you forgive, and you grow. Season 3 was a showcase where all the characters realize that every second counts in different ways. And it's only Carmy who has refused to learn this lesson. But it isn't too late. With Season 3 wrapped up, the series has set up all the major groundwork for Season 4, where we'll see Carmy go on an apology tour, whether it is with Sydney, Richie, Claire, himself, or all of the above. Sydney will have to decide if she wants to become partners with Carmy or move on to the next chapter in her life. No matter what though, her relationship with Carmy will be mended, whether it means staying or leaving.
I left you alone.
So don't let it happen again.
It's never gonna happen again.
But what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this episode of Atomic Vision, leave a like, subscribe for more, and I'll see you next time.
Hey, Sammy! This, we don't have time. Teddy, take high. I'll take low. Neil, eat the dust of the Swiffer. Facts? Attack!
How sick is it that I work here?
It's the best.
I love you.
I love you so much.
I'm gonna go help you, bro.
Go.
Slice some bread.
Yeah, slice the. Shut up.